So thinking about digitizing your data collection sheets, this video is going to walk through how you might do this through Google Forms. So as you log into your school Google Drive account, this is what you should see. We're going to go to plus new button and then we're going to hit Google Forms. If you've ever used Google Forms, this is what it looks like. I'm going to quickly walk through the features of it, the layout of it. So questions is going to be where you're going to input data for each of your students. Responses are, as you're collecting data, this is where those responses are going to live. Settings, you can play around with those, but my suggestion when it comes to responses is making sure that you don't collect email addresses. That's just going to make life so much easier so you don't have to, every time you're collecting data, to put in your email. Up on the top, we have customized themes, so if you want to get fancy and change the colors, the backgrounds, choose a header, change the font, go for it. Preview button is going to be so important. This is going to show a preview of what our Google data sheets looks like. As we'll go through this video, we're going to utilize this function a lot. We have undo and redo. These last two buttons, especially if you have a shared IEP APE goal, this would be where you would share that responder link for those individuals. So if it's a physical therapist, physical education teacher, what have you. I wouldn't recommend sharing this with anybody except yourself. We'll talk about keeping student information confidential since you're creating something online with student data in it. And then publish after you get everything set for each of your students' data collection sheets. So before we get started, as I mentioned, anything that you put online, there's a chance that there's going to be some data leak and all those things. And you're putting student information here. So making sure that you are keeping things confidential. One way that you can do that, rather than putting student names, you can put student initials. If you have any identifying information, don't put those in, like a school, things like that. Make sure that you're keeping and conscious of student confidentiality. For example, my name, initials AF, we can call this data collection sheet, and this school year is 25-26. If we go up to the top left here, it should automatically rename it. Great. So a couple things before we get into it. There's a side tab here. The side tab is going to be where you can add your questions, add images, add different visual supports, which we'll talk about. You can even import questions. Let's say that you have a data sheet already created and it might be the same or a similar goal to another student. You can import all those questions in so you don't have to start from scratch. This next one is adding a title or description, which we will do once we add the goal and objectives for this student. Images, videos, we'll also add something optional. Sections is the last one. We won't worry about sections. First question that you want to think about adding is today's date. When did you collect data? All right. So you can say date, data collected. As you're on this, Google might be smart and it automatically changed the type of question that you put in. On this tab, this drop down, these are all the different types of questions that Google Forms has. So short answer, multiple choice, checkboxes, drop downs. We have a rating scale, choice grid, checkbox grid, date and time. The ones that I will use in this video will be multiple choice grid and checkbox grid, and I'll show what that looks like. But for this one, date data collected. One thing for me, I always tended to forget to put something on a data sheet, so it was sometimes incomplete. There's this required button that you can hit. So before you hit submit, it's going to ask you, oh, you missed this question, just as a reminder. So if you're like me, you can go ahead and hit that question. If there's anything that you want to duplicate, let's say you have similar data for your goals and objectives, you can hit duplicate question. It'll pop up there. You can delete a question if you made a mistake. If you want to add any visuals to it, you can, either uploading it or you can search it on Google. But for now, we're going to leave it like this. We're going to add our next question, which we can hit this plus button. Next question is really important, but if you're having a shared APE goal, you want to know who's collecting data for this data sheet, so you can name this next question, who collected data today. Like I said, Google might automatically change the question type, so you can go ahead and let's do multiple choice. So let's say it was myself, the adaptive PE teacher, and it was Mr. Gunther maybe is also part of it, the physical education teacher. And then we have Miss G, who might be the physical therapist, and possibly maybe we have a teacher assistant that's also helping us collect data. So it'll be important to kind of know who is collecting that data so you can refer back when it's the end of the quarter. As always, hitting that required button will save your life. So let's look at the preview. So we have our date data collected and we have who collected data today. So far, looks great. The next question that we'll add, which will also be important, did the student attend today's class? That would be important when it comes to writing your progress after each quarter. Let's say a student only attended 5 sessions, right, out of the however many sessions each quarter. That would be important because it prevents you from collecting appropriate and complete data. So that could be something you can add onto your progress. So we'll add the next question here. Sometimes the questions might pop up at the beginning. If you need to drag it, you can go ahead and grab these dotted rectangle and you can click, hold, and drag. So we'll just simply name this was students present today. And this could be a simple yes and a no. I would add other too. Let's say the student was present but they left early. You can make a note there. Or let's say the student has some challenges and had to leave class and you worked out in the hallway. Let's say the student is in a gen ed PE class and you had to do that. I would write that down as well. That would be great data to have. Cool. The next sets of things for me when I write data collection sheets is actually adding in the goals and objectives. This is where our title and description will come in. I do have a hypothetical goal for a student here. So you can just go ahead and copy and paste all of your students' goals and also objectives, and you go ahead and paste it. You're going to have to get it off the IEPs. This particular goal is for this student while stationary. He's going to dribble the ball with their left and right hand 10 times without losing control. One thing that helped me out, because I wasn't going to read all 50 of my students' goals and objectives, I put a little note in the subtitle here that just gave me some summary points. So stationary, dribble 10 times with control, left and right hand. That's just really helped me. I can read that, know what I need, boom, can go ahead and collect data. So I'm going to add the 2 short-term objectives as well and do the same thing, adding a title, adding it here, and then we're going to add our shortened description. So stationary, dribbling 7 times for the short-term objective with control, left and right hand. And finally, our second short-term objective, which is stationary, dribbling 5 times, control, left and right hand. Awesome. So let's hit preview and see what that looks like. We have our date, who collected data, was the student present, and we have our annual goals and our short-term objectives. Awesome. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and add the actual data. One of the questions that I love using, or the choices, is multiple choice grid. It gives me rows and columns. So looking at this annual goal, there's 3 trials that the student will be doing both the left and right hand. So I need to break this up. This is great to break up because my rows could be my trials, so my 3 trials. Okay. My columns are going to be the number of dribbles. So for this annual goal, it's 10 times. So let's say 1 dribble, 2, 3, and we're going to go all the way down to 10. As you can see so far, it can be a little bit tedious to set up your data collection sheets, but once you do, things are going to be so much easier for you. So let's say that we wanted to add 0, maybe, just in case the student wasn't able to perform that. So just like we did with moving questions, we can move our selections here. The name of this, I would name this stationary dribbling with hands. And since we're doing both the left and then the right, I would name this the left hand. And we can duplicate this, and we can just simply rename this second one the right hand. So let's look at our preview. Let's look down at our data sheets. Okay, so we have, this is the left hand. We have our 3 trials, which connects to the 3 trials we have in our short-term objectives and goals. All right, we have our 10 dribbles. So let's say the student was able to get 555. If we write progress just for this data point, the left hand, they've achieved this short-term objective 2, since they did that 3 times, more than 2 out of 3 times. All right. Let's say for this one they did 777, so for the right hand they would be accomplishing or achieving their first one. And as you can see, this hasn't popped up yet because I haven't filled out these required ones. Which reminds me, got to put required here as well, just so we don't forget. Great. So let's say that you wanted to add something a little bit more specific. Let's say for each of the trials you wanted to add some prompts. Let's say for trial 1, the student used verbal prompts. Maybe for trial 2, you used a visual cue. So you want to make note of that as you're writing progress. So one thing that you can do is you can add additional columns. So verbal prompts, gestural prompts. You can also add physical prompts. And then I would also add independence as well. So we just chose multiple choice grid, which means there's only one choice that we can select. So how we can change that? We can change it to checkbox grid. So if we go back to our preview, we go down into our left-handed data collection sheet, we can say, okay, the first trial the student did 4. We used gestural prompts, right? And say it was a 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, all right. And then when you hit submit, you can actually see for each trial the student needed this type of prompting. Super specific when it comes to writing data. Just going to help you out with it. Or sorry, writing progress. Another way you can do that, you can add a question, a specific question that is about prompts. You can have a checkbox. I would suggest checkbox as well. Just to check multiple prompts the student required during the data collection. Right? If you want to add to the student visual cues, maybe, or maybe you used a video model or video prompts, those would be great things to add. And then another thing to add for questions is notes. Any additional notes or comments? This would be a short answer. So if the student was a little bit distracted today, or maybe you utilized some sort of token board, or maybe you have some sort of thing where you helped out the student in terms of engagement, that would be great to put here. And as always, adding that to your data, your progress at the end of each quarter. Other things that you might think about, these are just extras, but thinking about adding an image. So let's say for dribbling, rather than focusing on the number of times we dribble, let's say we're focusing on the actual skill cues, the critical elements. So the critical elements that you can add, eyes up, finger pads, push down, waist level, bend knees. All right, so those are just ones you can add. So if you do a Google search, let's say we want to focus on eyes up. So let's say we use this one here. So the images here, we can put, if you wanted to put 1 for our first critical element, eyes up, right? And we would add those, so on and so forth. So as you're popping up the student's data collection sheet, you already have your visual cues there, and you can prompt the student and support the student if they need um, some support when it comes to performing the skill. You can also add a video. Let's say you wanted to show a video model of a dribbling with hands. So it's not going to be the best, but let's see what pops up on YouTube. Let's say this is the best video ever in terms of a video model. Right? So you would just put dribbling hands video model. Yeah. When you hit preview and you scroll down, you have your visual cue here. You have your video. Your video
So
is
if you
not
want to
going to
improve your
look
off,
very nicely, so you might want to hit the YouTube button, but at least it's linked here, so you're able to access it. So you've made your first data collection sheet. So let's go ahead and start collecting some responses, and let's see what it looks like. First thing first, we got to hit the publish button to be able to do that. I would change this responders to not to anyone but restricted. So it's only going to be whomever has access to it. Jamesgunther has access because this is a shared Google Drive, but you would have your own, just making sure you're keeping things and student information confidential. So you specify the people that you want to share it with, you're going to hit publish. So this is the responder link. So let's see what that looks like. So this is your data sheet, right? You have your dates that you can select. Today's date, who collected data was me. The student was present, and we can go ahead and collect data. So we're just going to do some random stuff here, all right? So don't worry about what it looks like for right now. Let's go back to our responses. So responses, we should have one response. Sorry, we should have one response here. So we got our one response. We can look at the summary. We can look at the specific questions. For writing progress, individual is going to be your best bet. So for this quarter, you should have at least 3 data collection times, because the goal was 2 out of 3 opportunities per quarter. So you should have 3 of these in one quarter. If you're needing to save your data for 3 years, one thing you can do, you can link to Sheets, or you can hit this kebab button and you can either download responses, which I don't recommend, but if you print all responses and you go to PDF, save as a PDF, boom, you can see actually your data and specific questions. So one thing I learned, especially when it comes to the checkbox grid and adding additional things here, you can see on the right side, some might get cut off, like independent got cut off a little bit. So if you're adding like maybe 2 or 3 more checkboxes, it's not going to show up when you print. So one thing that you can do, you can just have a separate question like for here. It's not going to be as specific, but at least you have something to go with. But if you know how many that will cut off, you can go ahead and add that as well. So that's kind of an overview of how you create a digital data sheet. If there's any questions, please let myself know. I'll also leave James' email on this at the bottom of this video. Feel free to get in contact with us. Can't wait to see the types of data sheets that you create.